Today's interview was requested by our members and our subscribers after a long discussion last week on who they wanted me to interview. It was a drawn-out affair, but there was one clear winner, and that was Mark Goldbridge. It was an honest and open discussion with Mark, with many questions and many accusations put to him about his role in the Man United fan base. This channel has always been open to fans groups to come on here, along with fan channels. If anyone feels as though they've been targeted or affected by the views what are expressed in this video, you have a right to reply. And that reply, you can come on our channel and have an open and honest discussion. Thank you very much. Welcome back to the Webby O'Neill channel. With me today is Mark Goldbridge from the United Stand. Pleasure to have you on, Mark. I know it was a rush job. We phoned you a couple of days ago, and I'm really appreciative you coming as quickly as you have done.
No, look, I'm really happy to be on. I do watch the channel when I can. That's probably one of the only ones I do watch, to be fair.
Oh.
So, no, good to be on, and it'll be very interesting because I know we sort of have different communities, but there's a bit of a crossover, hopefully.
Yes, let's hope so. Now, I've got a few questions here, but I'm just going to start off with a soft one for you, Mark. Now, listen, you're the biggest YouTube channel, considering with United fans, over, well, nearly 2 million, is it?
Yeah, not far off yet. Yeah.
Nearly 2 million. Well, I'm going to start off softly with you, and then I'm going to get into some right deep questions with you, and hopefully you'll be able to answer them, and everyone will be happy with the answers. Now, what's a day in the life of Mark Goldbridge? Because I know you're busy, so what's it like, Mark? Waking up, going to bed?
I mean, it depends what day it is. If it's a match day, it's not too bad, actually, because we've got the studio in Manchester and they do a lot of the stuff before and after, and I just, literally do the watch along these days. But a normal day would be get up, take the lads to school, and then we've got the morning show at 10 o'clock. So just think about the news, have a read of the news over breakfast, do that show. Then we normally have a 2 o'clock show, and then there's an 8 o'clock show. But in between that, there's podcasts, That's Football Channel, might do a bit of computer. I'm still doing FIFA computer game stuff as well. So yeah, just constantly doing stuff. Yeah, but I love doing it. I mean, the day I don't like doing it, I mean, I'll just stop.
Well, listen, that's the way to do it, Matt. Do it while you enjoy it, and then one day, I've had enough.
Yeah.
Off you go.
Yeah,
a lot of work there, Matt. Now, I've got to turn round to everyone. I've got some right deep questions here to ask Mark, and I'm going to start with this one, Mark, right? And it is the elephant in the room. Okay.
Could be a lot of these.
Yeah, there might be. But it is the elephant in the room because I see it all over the place ever since I've known you. This question always comes up. Are you a Nottingham Forest fan?
Well, I'm not going to give you an exclusive Tony on here, but it'd be good if you did.
Yeah.
Tell you what, I'd get a lot of views.
I'd love it.
No, I mean, basically, we've known each other for years anyway. But my granddad got me into United. He was obsessed with Duncan Edwards specifically, but the Busby Babe. So he was a builder. So I used to get home. Mum and Dad separated when I was about 7. So my gran used to pick me up when was at work. So you'd get in, especially this time of year, autumn.
Yeah,
can't be building when it's dark, can you? So he'd be sat there with his dinner on the lap at 4 o'clock when I was getting in. And in those days, it was VHS videos, wasn't it? So he'd have like the story on United or Bobby Charlton's story or this, that and the other. So, you're 5, 6, 7 years of age. It's very impressionable and obviously in those stories, you'd Munich would be part of it.
Yeah.
So I liked football, but then you'd be like, this football club's like more than a football club. It's like a story of like, you'd have the tragedy and you'd see the plane and then you'd see what happened when Best came through. So I sort of grew up with that, but obviously I grew up in Nottingham as well.
Yeah.
So my dad did take me to a few games when I was younger, but funnily enough, my dad's a Chelsea fan. So, but no, it came from my granddad. I mean, he was the biggest influence on my life because when my mum and dad separated, we moved in with them for about 2 years, and he'd bloody manage a team down the park. He would. He loved football, so he used to manage Sunday, Saturday teams. He'd use my Sabutio to get my two uncles in to go through the tactics. So I grew up with it, and he just loved Manchester United.
Do you think this is mentioning Nottingham Forest? And to be honest with you, the reason why I've asked you is it what people use to batter you down, to like have a go, and they think, right, I've got something on, isn't it? And it's because they don't like you, they're jealous, they're things like that. So they always keep coming back to, he's a Nottingham Forest fan and all this, and like, he doesn't know the culture of Man United. He's never supported United like the way I've done, or the way I've done, or he's done, or anything like that. So the Nottingham Forest thing will always keep coming back at you, surely.
Yeah, I think because the United stands become so popular, and I'm not from Manchester, I sort of get that. But what I don't get about it is that Man United is a massive club. It was a massive club in the 50s. My granddad's from Nottingham, and he loved them not because of what happened with the tragedy, but because they won the league as a bunch of kids. They captured the imagination of the country. You had Dudley, Duncan Edwards, Sir Bobby was up from the northeast. Man United's always had that appeal outside of Manchester. Now, for me, I love coming to Manchester. I love meeting, Manchester United fans, match-going fans. Their experience is always going to be different to mine. If you're from Manchester, or if you're going matches home and away, there's something that's very different to that. But what I believe we should do, and what the United stand does, is actually we're all one. Now, you and I know this fan base ain't like that, is it? That it's not, whether it's the Man United Supporters Trust or other groups, people want their own pie. But for me, I look at it and I go, it's about community. And we've got our community. Webby O'Neill channel, we've got your community. What's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with it. I've always looked at every United fan, they're a Man United fan, so we're all a family, but unfortunately there's people out there, and it is a stick what's to buy you. You accept it, I understand it. Now, going on further, I've got to get on to how do I describe this? Ex-United players, media and everything else they call you out. But I'm gonna quote Paul Parker. You have no relationship with Man United. Basically, all you're there for is to profit from it. What do you say to people like Paul Parker, ex-United players, coming out and sort of saying, you're not a United fan, you're just there for the money?
The ironic thing about that is I think Paul Parker was doing an article for some irrelevant, never heard of betting brand when he did it, and they probably were trying to get exactly what they got. They probably said, what do you think about Mark Goldbridge? And Paul Parker probably went, who is he? And then they went, this, can you say that? I don't blame Paul Parker for saying it. I mean, Paul Parker, I remember him in Italia 90, I remember at United. But one, he won't understand this world. And two, who is he to say what a Man United fan is? I mean, look, we see it in the modern day, don't we? I grew up loving certain players, and I know a couple of them in real life are probably a couple of, not the nicest people. Your legends on the pitch aren't necessarily, switched on or off the pitch. Some of them are fantastic, but there's plenty of players at the moment that many United fans watching this would go, I don't want them in the club. So I'm not, there's probably 2 or 3 United legends that I would listen to, and the rest of them, their opinion's no better than yours. It's no better than anyone watching this. In fact, yours is probably better because you're a United fan. Are these people really United fans, or did they come here for the money? But I'm not going to deflect that back. I mean, it's like the Forest fan thing, isn't it? It's just they say it to try and rile you or demean you, because ultimately they're probably jealous
themselves. Now, listen, I've got to go on because it caused the storm. You interviewed Højlund.
Yeah, nearly a year ago,
Yeah, nearly a year ago. And it did create a storm, death threats, everything else like that. But it's claimed out there in social media that you're provided with favourable, if you provide favourable PR for certain players, okay, you tend to get these interviews. Did that happen with Højlund?
No, I mean, obviously Ten Hag's gone now, but there was this sort of social media thing where we were being paid by SEG, which is the agency that was in charge of Ten Hag. I always said, look, I know of 3 or 4 top journalists who were trying to get this story, and I said, because people close to me were saying that they're fishing around, and I was like, well, let them fish. They're not going to catch anything. I mean, I've got no problem being asked it, and I've got no problem answering it, but we've never taken payment from anybody. What happened with Rasmus was that he followed me on Instagram because I do the computer game stuff. So, I mean, Rasmus is 21? I've been doing that for probably 7 years. So he might have been like 13, 14 watching that.
That's right.
So he followed me before he came to United, and then we got linked to him, and I got in contact with him and said, oh, would you be interested in doing an interview? This was when he was at Atalanta. And he said, no, but if I do come to United, I'll do it. So then about 6 months after that, I was like, would you fancy doing the interview? And then it went, I mean, God, it took so long for United to do it. And to be fair, the people at United were really good. They did facilitate it, but it took absolutely ages. And then when he did it, it was sort of like, it did really well for our community. But then you had lots of people saying the players told him not to do it, and then he apologised for it. And I was just like, and then we got all the death threats and stuff. And I was just like, this is ridiculous. It was actually a really good interview, but you can't probe him as much as you like.
No, we know that.
But yeah, that's how it came.
Well, I'm going to probe you, Mark, because a lot of people after that were sort of saying he's doing good PR for certain players. He's changed his attitude and everything else like that. So you came under a lot of heat from what I seen and what people was telling me. Can you confirm that you have no relationship with any players' agents?
Yeah,
because on the back of the Højlund one, you was attacked as though like he's got this, he's talking well of this player, and he's going to do another interview in that. So the story you've just told me is the more in line because you've got a relationship with players' agents.
I'm just trying to think. I've never had any contact with a player's agent at all. In the whole time I've been doing it, I have spoken to players, and I don't think that's uncommon in this world. If you think about Ginge, Angry Ginge, and people like that, they're probably followed by 50. Look at the sidemen, people like that. I'd say 75% of footballers on Instagram are following KSI or someone like that, and it wouldn't be uncommon in the mod. I mean, maybe people don't realise this, but it wouldn't be uncommon for those players to be exchanging DMs every now and again, So that's sort of like, I've had that sort of contact with players, but
ever had dinners with them?
No, nothing like that. No.
People out there will be asked.
Yeah, I mean,
if you've had contacts.
What I'm trying to say is, I think the way the world is now, and I'm sort of a little bit slow on it myself, is that they're almost mates with them. The players are almost mates with some of these younger, big influencers. For me, it would be, yeah, I'm professional in what I do. If I've never been told anything about team news or anything like that, I wouldn't put it out there if I did. So, but it's a new world, Tony. I think this is not. I'm sure the club would like it not to be happening, but the reality is, how do you control social media?
Very hard, isn't it? I'm going to hit on a player here now. Very controversial in many ways, to be honest with you, with his form, with his off-field antics and everything else like that. But you caused a stir, a big stir. I think he caused a bigger stir by reacting to what you do on your YouTube channel. That's Marcus Rashford. He actually posted a comment on one of your tweets, and I'll read it out here. And he said, "Please stop spreading malicious rumours." Now, for a player to come out and sort of like accuse you of spreading lies and everything else like that, how did that, what was your reaction to it? Because that's pretty, he's up there in the PR world and everything, and he's attacking you, Mark, your channel, malicious lies. I mean, that's pretty damning, that.
I mean, it's disappointing. I mean, look, ultimately what I would say is that I would love Marcus Rashford to play good football for Man United and score goals, because that's all that matters. I don't really care what he's like as a person. That's the bottom line. But in relation to that situation, actually, I think we did try and reach out to his agent there, but got nothing back to sort of like say, come on. This is a guy who's getting book deals, doing charity work, and you're replying to something out of context. And look at the shitstorm it's caused. And all right, 75% of people are going, go on, Rashford, well done. But 25% are going, what are you doing? And also I said, we're not The Sun, we're not talkSPORT. Have you looked at what they're saying today? What the video was and the thumbnail was Rashford's future in doubt, ? Is that malicious? I mean, he was playing awful at the time. His future in the team,
diverting the attention by using you.
And and why go after the United stand? Why not go after another YouTube channel or a website or talkSPORT, something like that? I think it was a little bit. Either it was really naive and silly, which is concerning for a Man United player, or it was calculated to try and cause us trouble. But either way, I'm sort of like, this is probably one of the biggest earners and reputation players at Man United. and you're getting involved in a Twitter thing like that.
Why was he bothered?
Just
leave it.
And if he is bothered, that's even more worrying about how the mentality of the modern player is.
Yeah.
But that, I mean, look, if you're going to get, ultimately, that was not about booting him out or anything. It was about he's not playing well. He's actually going to take his place, etc.
Has this sort of like spat with Marcus Rashford, has this caused you to change how you do content on players?
To be honest, I think after that with Rashford, a lot of our community has said, "Oh, Goldbridge he's scared of saying anything about Rashford," and I'm like, "Well, you haven't seen."
Well, that's right. Yeah. That's why I'm pulling you, Mark, because it's what people say, and that's why I've got you here. Because the United fans are saying, "Oh, he's changing his content, his attitude's changed towards certain players," and that, and the Marcus Rashford thing. It was a big thing in the United community, so.
But the thing I'd say to that is that we do a match reaction after every game like you do, and we'll do player ratings, and I very rarely give him an average. It's normally below average, and to be honest, if he doesn't work under Amorim, then why would he not be moving on for his own good? So look, I like every player to be treated the same, and one of the big problems with United is, and I'll say this, is that certain players in that football club have had too much power for too long. Hopefully, Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos are going to change that and Amorim, because if we continue down the route of the last 5 years, there's players in that club who are too powerful that goes hand in hand with us not being a very successful club.
I think people out there might say the last 10 years, not 5, Mark. Yeah. But Rashford, can you confirm? I like this question. Can you confirm you've had no contact whatsoever with his agents?
Yeah, nothing. No, we did reach out to them after that to say, look, let's have a grown-up conversation because this has been taken completely out of context, blanked.
Right. I'm going right in on you here now, Mark. Proper in on you. talkSPORT. You just mentioned it there. It's seen as anti-Man United. And to be honest with you, obnoxious at times. And I mean obnoxious towards Manchester United, constant this, constant slagging them down, you name it, a lot. Does my head in, to be honest with you. The amount of abuse what comes out of these people's mouths on talkSPORT, people phoning up and everything. Now, you work for them, Matt.
Well,
I know. No,
I worked for them.
No, this is what I'm saying. How could you go and work for them knowing that United fans, right, hate talkSPORT? Not every United fan, but a lot of them see talkSPORT, right, as anti-Man United all day, every day, any chance they get. But you decided to go on there knowing how obnoxious they are at times towards Manchester United.
Look, the answer to that is that definitely
not me saying that, Matt. These are the questions what have come into us, as if to say, yeah, we'll do anything for money. This has been thrown at you loads of times. I know that, right? But people don't understand why you went on there when you've got your own channels. One, you didn't need them. You've got your own profile. You've got everything out there. Why would you go on at what people look at and say that's anti-Man United? Well, Mark Goldbridge is anti-Man United. You see how the two sort of go together?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's I'm not bothered about answering it. I mean, if it wasn't financial. I stopped doing my 8 o'clock show on a Saturday night to do that, and would earn 4 times what I got from talkSPORT. So it wasn't financial. And I used to call it talk shit before, and I call it talk shit now, and they still gave it me. What happened is, basically, there was a guy who was like second in command there, and he sort of was waking up to the whole social media world. And if you look at talkSPORT now, it's basically a rip-off of everything what we're doing,
correct,
you're doing.
100%.
So I sort of went in and I was like, well, what's the project? And they said it's a Saturday night call-in from 7:30 till 9. And I said, well, can I do it from home with my own equipment that we get? So I did it for 2 years. And the reason I did it was because, one, I suppose it was a bucket list thing to have your own radio show. But 2, I wanted to try and change the way things were. I wanted to get in to having chats with people like Simon Jordan and stuff like that. And after about the first 12 months being fobbed off, I sort of realised that was never going to happen, which is why I left at the end of last season, because I was like, this isn't doing anything for me. That, I was on the show, and then another show, you'd have Danny Murphy slagging me off or Andy Goldstein slagging me off. And I basically just said, this is what I thought it was. So, I mean, I never did any shows with anybody else. I just had my own call-in show. But I do regret it. But then if you don't try...
I know you've got to try things, but, you know, was it your ego sort of going on there, wanting to mix with the likes of Simon Jordan and all that? Because it certainly wasn't I don't think it was helping your profile on United stand. So people have said it's his ego, he's getting on there, he wants this, he wants that, because the money's not the thing, what you say. I just don't understand. Before you went on, yes, you spoke with someone, but knowing how obnoxious they are towards Man United, and you know that when you went on there, they were calling you still rotten, but you took it. I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, I think...
Is it a regret?
It is a regret, and I think I look at it now, and I look at what they're doing now, and I think they've took a lot of what we're all doing, and they're trying to do it in a very fake way, and I've been very public about that. But look, you know, you make mistakes. It was a mistake to go on there.
Yeah.
It wasn't for money. It was more about having a call-in show. I quite like the call-in aspect of it. I mean, I don't listen to it, but I quite... Look...
It was something you tried out.
Tried it and it failed.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day. And
yeah. So there you are. He tried it. It failed.
And since we've stopped doing it, it's better.
Yeah. It's better. Well, you know, you've not.
Because the mainstream's crap anyway, isn't it? It is.
Listen, the legacy media is absolutely atrocious, especially at this moment in time. I'm going to get onto this. I've been sort of dreading it, but you know, anticipating it as well. But looking forward. After match reactions, Mark, on your channel, topic of debate amongst many United fans. I mean, I've got loads of things to say about it. I'm going to try and keep it level-headed. Your after match reactions, Mark, one of the most toxic things United fans have seen. It turned people against you. It turned hate against you. These people, what were on there? How did it start, and how did these people get on there week after week after week? Was there a sort of a profile you had to go for, a strategy? I had to get these people on so they can like shout and bawl and act silly and just slag everything down, because that's what it seemed like. You know, did you profile these people deliberately and keep them on week in, week out so you could then get more clicks? Yes. That's what YouTube's about, getting more clicks and that. But these people, was it for the football ability, or was it just for shouting and bawling?
We're talking about fan cams, aren't we?
Yeah.
Outside Old Trafford. I think, well, where it all started, I don't like them. And everyone's got every right to say, well, you did it. And it's easy to say that afterwards. But I never liked them. I don't like them. And I was more than happy to stop doing them. But what basically happened is that, you know, AFTB,
yeah,
they're very successful at it, and it works really well for that football club. So basically, Robbie got in contact with me, and he was like, "Why aren't you doing this?" Because I've always got on with Robbie quite well from AFTB. Yeah. And I said, I just can't bother to do it. I don't think it. You know, Full-Time Devils were doing it with Makola, weren't they?
Yeah.
And he was like, "You should be doing that. Your channel is going to be bigger than theirs. You should be doing that." And I was like, I just can't be asked to set it all up and everything like that. And he said, "Well, my cousin Flex, he's a Man United fan. He'd love an opportunity like that." So I was sort of like, "What's on the plate here? Let's give it a go." So Flex started coming up, and in the early days, it was all right. It was. I mean, we used to be out here with you sometimes, didn't we? And I'd come up to some games and do it, and there was people who didn't like it, but it wasn't that bad. And then I sort of left it to that. I'm not absolving myself of blame, because ultimately I'm the face of the United stand. So Flex very much did the whole fan cam thing, and I'd do all the watch along and everything like that. And that was the way it was working. And then it was getting to a point like you'd get like 12 fan cams, and I'd say, we're only putting 6 of them up. And it'd be like, you know, why is that then? I said, because the other 6, what were they doing before they went on? Smacking themselves around the face, ready to go sort of thing. And it started to become a little bit too
toxic,
obvious that these people were almost like planning it even before the game, what they were going to say.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a few that spring to mind that were just, they went viral, and I suppose 1 or 2 were funny, but and you see it now. Like, what I hated about the Ten Hag thing is I don't mind anybody being Ten Hag out. I wasn't. but you know, the bold fraud and this, that, and the other, or I'm going to beat you up, or I just like, what is that? And anyway, COVID came round. Somebody from the Red Army got in contact with me and said, look, you know, we don't like fan cams. And I think they were expecting me to go, well, we're doing them. And I went, you know what, I don't. And this is COVID, and it's actually a really good opportunity that when fans come back in the ground, we're not going to do it. I says, all we are going to do is that the people who work for us will just do a match reaction, but they're regulars. We're not going to, and that was it. And we stopped doing it because it was becoming pantomime. And I think Paddock or Full-Time Devils, they've stopped doing it now as well. And I respect and understand that, but then there are still people doing it. But it's had its day, Tony. It's WWE wrestling. It's like that's what it is. I don't mind someone standing outside the ground who's watched the game, you know, watching your match reaction, my match reaction, or whoever else. But holding a microphone outside.
One of the things out there on social media when you go to the match and all that, a lot of people talk about the fan cams and all that, and what they don't like. A lot of match going Reds. One of the reasons why the hatred was towards him, and sometimes violence was towards him, is because they just didn't regard him as United fans. They were actors, and you sort of just alluded to something there where you said they were preparing what to say before the game had even started. Well,
you become a mini celebrity very quickly, don't you?
Is that what them people were doing? Because they've gone on from there, doing their own things and using what you created on your channel, and that they studied what you did and have gone and used it. Actors. Is that the right word? What United fans have accused them of being, that fan reaction?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a good point. I don't think it was premeditated, but when I look at some of the people that were on the United stand, and I look at what they're doing now, and I look at what they were at the start, and then what they were at the end, I think at some point they were just turning up and talking about United, and then a light switch went, I can take this to another level. And I certainly think that, look, respect anybody who's doing content. I don't care whether they hate me or not. Anyone who's doing content, it's difficult, and it takes dedication, and it takes a talent. And these people clearly have it. But I do think that knowing what those people were like at the start and what they are now, how is it that 5 or 6 people have all had a personality transplant? Like they've changed what they're doing, like we were mentioning before, you know, the Sidemen or anybody else, you change as you go through because you realise this is what people want. Oh, this is what's going to get me clicks. Yeah. And, you know, I'm no different to that in the sense of when I started, I've probably gone the other way. I think my early content was probably toxic, but the last 4 years...
Probably.
Well, yeah, it probably was, yeah. But then again, there was a reason to be toxic, I think.
Yeah.
Whereas I think what happened with me is you get older, and also... I'm tired of sacking managers. I don't want to be saying sack this manager or anything like that. And that's how I've evolved. Whereas I look at some people are like, they're still stuck in that.
Well, I was going to come on to that, your channel, the way it was and the way it is now. You've sort of mellowed. There's not as much, how can I say, hyper screaming and I want this, I want him out, I want this and that. You're sort of like having a conversation. Not just with the audience, but with yourself. And you seem to have changed, you know, that, like you say, that goes with age, you know what I mean? Learning, understanding what's around you. And also when people like put a knife in your back, what are close to you and all that, and you learn lessons, you know what I mean? But I just want to touch back on the fan channels. I've got to say this from a toxic point of view, and it wasn't just your people doing the fan cams. I mean, I witnessed like angry scenes, Mark, after the games and that towards him outside. Well, we're in here now at Hotel Football, and a lot of the times what I witnessed outside here, there was a lot of pushing, shoving, threats made and all that, and it was an ongoing thing. But it sort of like, I could see the worry in like Flex, for instance, and other people, what was on there and that, and it did cause a division. And like you say, you ended it, you wasn't comfortable with it, and it was the right thing to do.
No, and I think, you know, it's like anything, isn't it? If it's like the boy who cried wolf, if you do it once or twice, people might turn up, and then the third time, it's the opposite of that, isn't it? I think it's not the same as what it was, and people don't like it. So if you keep doing it and then you get crap for it, you can't really moan about it because people have had their say on it. We don't do it anymore because people had their say on it and we're like, we don't like it, and I didn't really massively like it, so we don't do it. And another channel doesn't do it, but those still doing it, they can't cry sympathy if people don't like it.
Well, you can't cry sympathy because you have caused a few ructions in your time. And that's from other YouTubers, other YouTube channels. And you engaged in a battle long ago, a battle of words, calling out other channels run by media companies. Now, you did cause a stir. I remember it at the time, a few years ago. And you actually turned around to these YouTubers and said, shame on them for being run by media companies. Can you expand on what that war of words was and what it was all about?
I presume it's been a long time ago now, but when we started the United Stand, we obviously started, I think it was once a week on a Sunday night. It was me, Kev, and a couple of other people. I would just, on a Sunday night, we would just have a chat and go live. But there was other channels around at that time, one of which was Full-Time Devils, which is not caused anymore. And I found out that that they were working out of an office with a Man City channel.
Oh, right.
So
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, and it was owned by Fremantle, I think it was, which was the company that sort of did X Factor or something. So it was just easy, you know, like when we started, I was just very much about, you know, I suppose it's a bit like the 90s when you had football and remember like TFI Friday with US Evans and the music scene. It was all just very anti-establishment, wasn't it? And I was like, well, football's anti-establishment. So it was like it was just easy when we started to go, we're a real channel. We're run by the fans. You know, them lot over there.
Okay.
They're media. They're in a bloody office with Man. Yeah, they're being paid by this. So
easy target.
Yeah. I mean, when I look at the what we were just talking about them and the real stabbing in the back that's gone on, I don't look at Full-Time Devils or anything. I mean, I'm sure they held a grudge against me, but for me, that was pantomime. It was like they were bigger than us at the time.
Yeah.
We're coming for them, you know.
Well, I've never seen them have a good word about you, man.
No, they won't. They should have been what we were.
Oh,
but
right.
Because they were run by a media company and it wasn't authentic and we outed it.
Got you, yeah.
It caused them problems, didn't it? Because they were all like suit and whistles, everything. And we sort of came in, you know, bedroom vlog or whatever you want to call it. And we're like, you know, you can't respect them.
No script, no nothing, just straight at it. Whereas you're saying, like, for Full-Time Devils, for instance, I use them as a starter. It's like there's a script. They're not real. That it's all put on. Is that what you're saying? And that's generally what came out.
Yeah, at that time they were. I mean, the funny thing is now that I think it actually is quite authentic. The lads who are running it now, they've sort of got hold of it themselves.
Yeah.
They've had to do that.
Yeah.
To try to get credibility in a sense.
Yeah, got you. Now.
Well, it's like yours, isn't it? Yours is credible. It's like, you know, you do. I think most Man United content creators now are doing it independently, which is very much in tune with. It's almost like a modern fanzine, isn't it? You know, everyone's sort of doing their own thing.
Well, I actually looked at what you was doing. I always engaged with you and everything, and I watched what you was doing, and I thought to myself,
I can do that better.
I'll have to do something different if I ever thought of doing something. I never had any thoughts of doing it until COVID turned up because there was time to do it. And I thought, well, just be a United fan, you know, and I can understand how you created something and ours is different, but I'm a different person than what you are following United. So I was able to speak with Webby, speak with Kieron and create something. Let's just talk. Let's just be authentic. And that's what we try and create. Obviously, it's not to everyone's liking, but there's room for every type of discussion and the way you approach things. So that's how we approach it. I get how you've approached yours. Full-Time Devils, for instance, they approached that because they were media run. Now they've changed. And over time, everything changes, doesn't it, Matt?
Yeah, and I think the most important thing is when you look at the United fan base and you look at some of the stuff that's going on around Must and the 58 and everything like that. In my time supporting Man United, we've never had a United fan base, and it's all very much don't do this, follow us. And I just think, well, you're so stuck. This is why you never do anything, because you're telling people what to think. And like, there'll be people who watch this channel who watch United Stand and watch something else. There'll be people who only watch your channel, people who only watch mine, and it's community. And I don't care if people only watch your channel and hate me, and I don't care if anyone only watches my channel and hates Full-Time Devils. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me. But what you've got to understand is, in the modern world, is there are these communities. And people telling people, you can't watch that, you can't do this, sign up for us, we're getting rid of that.
Can't tell anyone what to do.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's absolutely ridiculous. It's everyone's building their own communities. And I don't care if people don't like the United Stand and they like another channel. That's fine.
I've listened to United fans talk about people who you've had on your channel, and a lot of disrespect towards people who have worked for you. A lot of disrespect have come from the people what work for you. You know, some have left. Most people out there turn around and say they've all been sacked. You know, the anti-Mark Goldbridge brigade, he sacked him and all that. You know, they don't want anything good said. Now, every one of them, as I see it, and what I've been reading and what I've been talking about people what used to work for you, Mark, my God, they've just gone out there and slaughtered you, slagged you off, as though like you was Mr. Evil. You was the evil employer. You never did anything, and it was them what made you. But they seem to have all gone out there, got on their own platforms, right? Been educated, learned how to be a YouTuber, see what the business is like, and then gone out there and called you rotten. Now, how do you feel about that? Do you feel it as though like you was betrayed by these people, or was you expecting it? Is that the way of the world?
I'd like to say I'm proud of it, but I'm not. I think we've made some mistakes, and I certainly think if you had the time again, you wouldn't do certain things. But I think the sad thing is that you're going to get people who I think they want their own piece of the pie. That's what it is, you know. And I get that. Some people just want their own piece of the pie. But the disappointing thing is the lack of respect. Like none of them would have the platforms they've got if they didn't be given a chance by us. There's no appreciation for that. There's no respect for that. That type of ego is incredible, because I have fallen out with people, but I will always look. I've had people work for me who really helped us, and I've always acknowledged that, even though we fell out, because you can't turn your back on a journey. But the big disappointment is the fact what we were talking about, community. The United Standards is a massive community, and these people gain their traction from being in front of our community. So when they go off and start slagging it off, they're not just slagging me off, they're slagging off the community that gave them that. And then they're telling them, fuck that community, be part of my community. And it's like, I don't think they get that. And I think that's probably why they only grow to a certain point, because they've totally and utterly disrespected the people that's given them that platform. But they think it's me, but it's not me. It's the viewers who've given them that platform. It's the viewers who took to them, and then they go, fuck that, you know.
Do you feel as though, like, some of them, I'm not saying all of them, have actually come to you under a different, like, attitude and sort of looking at what Mark Goldbridge and got a learning experience, and that's what they were all coming for, to learn the trade and steal a few sort of trade secrets, shall we say, and then go away? I mean, you know, there's people you've employed for like a year, longer, 2 years, things like that. Do you think that some of them actually just came to pick your brain and pick the business so they could take it away?
No, I don't. I think they came in with very little very inexperienced and raw. I think we gave them opportunities to learn, and then with those opportunities and skills, they've gone off and done their own thing. And unfortunately, I mean, I don't have a problem with that. It's the behaviour afterwards, the lack of respect, and the lies that get put out there. But what's my response to that? My response is always crack on, good luck. You know, we will move on. Apparently, certain people helped us to get 1 million subscribers, and they've gone. Well, why are we getting to 2 million then? You know, it's the bottom line is whoever goes, we go from strength to strength, and if they go off and do what they're doing, I don't think there's anybody who works at United Stand who's losing any sleep over it. They seem to lose a lot of sleep talking about us.
But do you not see that everyone who's out there, the main heads, shall we call it, okay, who are out there slagging you down, putting you down at every opportunity and everything, they're all working together. Does that not bother you?
No, because I think what they're trying to do is they try and, they're just trying to get what we've got.
Yeah.
That's what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
So if they strengthen numbers, but what they'll do is they'll run out of food and they'll eat each other up because one of them will become more popular than the other.
Yes.
And then this
always happens, that, doesn't it, Matt?
I remember my granddad saying to me once about envy and jealousy and people who, he said, give it a year.
Yeah.
And I think, but as I say, best of luck to them. I don't talk about it. I mean, it's probably one of the first times I've spoken about it. We're not naming names. There's plenty of people who've done it. There might be more people who do it, but good luck to them.
Good luck to them. That's it. Yeah. Move on. That's what you do. And don't worry about them. Go back to something. Glazer protests, Mark. Massive protests all over. I look at it. People accuse you of getting involved in the Glazer protests. That same old chestnut come up again. He's profiting from it and all that. What, from a fan's point of view, how did you approach it? Did you try and get involved? Was you limited? Could you get to protest, or was you like doing the YouTube channel? What's your reaction to all these protests, how they started and how it all ended up? Because as far as a lot of United fans out there are concerned, the Glazer protest stopped a long, long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the people who march and obviously we had a lot of it. I got a lot of respect and time for that, but I think it's a difficult one when you've got something like the United stand, because there was unofficial protests, wasn't there? Almost like social media ones, and then people start going, "Why aren't you promoting that?" And I'd go, "Because there's an official one tomorrow," and it's like, "Oh, you're not promoting this, you're not promoting that." I think that the protests at their core are about removing the Glazers, but I also think they became very opportunistic for people to put their name around it. Oh, we're all meeting up at 1:00 unofficially, or there's an official one tomorrow. There was one I was going to come to, and I think I was speaking to the Manchester United Supporters Trust about it. I might have even spoken to you about it, and it just got silly, the fact that if I turn up at that and then it kicks off or is a distraction.
Yeah.
It's meant to be about getting the Glazers out, and I don't think there's a Man United fan out there that wouldn't want that, although they seem to have forgotten at the moment because they're still here. So
for quite a while,
and I'm a bit confused about what's going on with that at the moment, because we're all just sort of hoping that Ineos will oost them at some point, but
yeah,
still got majority owners, aren't they?
Yeah, still majority owners. I'm going to get onto something light-hearted. You're in hotel football. Gary Neville.
Yeah.
Gary Neville. There was a Twitter spat, and he was asked, would he have Mark Goldbridge on the overlap? Quick reply, no. Is that something you'd want to do?
I did get asked to do it about 2 years ago, and I said no because they had someone on and didn't.
Oh, you said no?
I said no about 2 years ago. And then somebody mentioned it in our chat. And no, they put a post out on their community tab saying, who should we get on? And it was spammed with Mark Goldbridge. So I was like, oh, I might get asked on. And then that's why Gary was asked about it. And I just thought, well, it's a bit funny, isn't it? You ask your community what they want, and then you say no to it. Mate, you know Gary Neville. I don't know him. I've never met him. I don't think he likes me very much. Brilliant left back. Absolutely superb right back, sorry. But I can't comment on anything because I've never met the guy. I don't know whether it's genuine or...
But you brought him up loads of times, try to engage him on social media and all that.
Wouldn't you?
Well, I don't know.
Well, yeah, for me, I mean, look, I'm never malicious. It's always banter with me. You know, if I met him, as I said to you there, absolutely underrated as a right back. I thought he was fantastic. As a pundit, I don't agree with a lot of what he says.
Well, if we ever get the chance of bumping into him, I'll ask him the question and I'll get back to you.
I think it's because I'm just a knobhead. I think that's what it is.
Well, if he called you a knobhead, I'd tell you he called you a knobhead. Right. You and I, many, many times, met at Old Trafford. A lot of people out there will be surprised at that, but me and Mark always got on well. I've got nothing against the channel. You either watch whatever you want to watch. That's how I look at life. but we always talked. And when we was outside Old Trafford, we're going back a few years now, the conversation always come up about threats and everything else like that. You mentioned it to me while we was talking on a match day and all that. But I always got the sense, Mark, that these threats were affecting you. Because when I was talking to you sometimes, you'd be looking straight ahead and you'd be looking nervous and then you'd be looking to the left and to the right. How deeply did all these threats, and I'm talking, we're talking 6 years ago, 5 years ago, and I always knew you were standing close to me. You used to turn up with Sophie from, I think, from the Midlands and having the conversations, but you was never listening. And I always thought to myself, this kid's under massive pressure. He's worried, he's scared and that. How bad was it, Mark? Because I seen it in you, and that's me being genuine. I seen it in you. And I think that drawn you more to me, really, because I'm thinking, this kid don't deserve this. He's doing what he's doing. So how badly was it? Was it affecting you, your wife, everything? Because it was there.
Yeah.
And I know you won't deny it, but I was worried for you.
Yeah, and I think, there's not going to be many people in the world that when you're walking around, when you're out in a situation where there's hundreds of people and they might not like what you're doing, you've got to have your wits about you, haven't you? Also, it was a world, to be honest, I don't think anybody had ever done it before to that sort of size and magnitude. So at the start, it was a bit of a head mess. And also the social media stuff as well. There's a lot of bad stuff on there. And you're not used to it. There was a bit of pressure and a bit of stress at the start, I suppose. But I've been doing it for nearly 10 years now. So
water off a duck's back now.
It is water off a duck's back now. I mean,
but they were worrying times though, Matt.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Because I think, you do other jobs and you do, you go out with your mates and stuff like that, and you don't have to think about that sort of stuff. But then, I've been coming to Old Trafford for years. Not every match. I've never. No, I can say that. 3 or 4 times a season before I even started doing this. And you're just a face amongst the crowd. No one bothers you, do they? Yeah. Then suddenly people are looking at you, and for every 100 people, there might be 2 or 3 that just go try and do something stupid.
Well, I always looked at it like this. I mean, I'll move on to the next question in a second. I always looked at it like this. In my life, I've never liked bullies whatsoever. And I could see someone who was a victim of bullying, whether it was online or verbally when you was around or anything like that. So that's why I brought that up.
But then again, Tony, to be fair, there'd be people watching this going, yeah, but he bullies Harry Maguire when he says he's crap, or Rashford and everything like that. I disagree with that. That's not bullying. I've been going to matches for years. There's the 80s, early 90s. Football fans criticise players. It's not bullying.
It's the bullying what leads to violence, what I don't like. Now, going on, fans groups. You mentioned fans groups before. What's your real opinion of these fans groups, Mark? Because have any of them ever reached out to you to join them, to get involved in your channel, or have they reached to you? Have you reached to them? What's your real opinion about them? Everyone who knows me personally knows my opinions, and it's not a good opinion. I just want to know what yours is.
I just don't think any organisation that starts from a place of bitterness and dishonesty is an organisation worth championing. And I think that's my experience of it. With zero conversation, they're slagging us off, saying this, that and the other. And to me, better than the trolls on Twitter. If you're trying to be a voice for Manchester United, then understand what your Manchester United fan base is all around. Yeah. Stop being a dictatorship and stop telling people how to think. And actually tune into the United stand for the last 2 years and talk about what we've been talking about. Leave the manager alone. Get behind the players. Let's get behind the club. But no, they're everything that's wrong with football. You don't even know what it is. So you are propaganda dictators. If you want to chat, like we've been talking for years,
yeah,
the door is open. But they won't do that because they'll find the truth out, and then they'll be like, "Oh shit, we look silly now." I haven't got a problem with any of them. I just have a problem with the lies that get perpetuated out there for people to grow off because it's popularist.
Well, we've always, as a channel, said to everyone, if you want to chat, come on here. Fan groups, anybody want to discuss fans' issues, we've always said it. And to this day, no one's ever done it. So that just shows you that it's not just us. It's the biggest YouTube channel out there. Regrets, Mark. I mean, in life, you know, there has to be regrets. But what's your regrets?
I think it took me a few years to get into the gear of not gear, but you know what I mean. To get into the gear.
Yeah, with the old days.
Yeah. To get into the gear of where we are, I think over the last 3 or 4 years, post COVID, and maybe COVID had a part to play in it because it was a scary time for the world. It's just made me realize like where I am as a content creator and where I am as a fan, and then they're in tune. Whereas I think the early formative years, it's almost like being a footballer, isn't it? It's like you have your teens, early 20s, and then you hit your prime, and then your mature years. And I think, yeah, look, I mean, we've covered a lot of the regrets. I could list them down. Like, I wish I hadn't done that. Wish I hadn't worked with them. Wish I hadn't said that, etc. But I don't really have any regrets over the last 3 years. I mean, I think it's been the most enjoyable the United stand's ever been, and hopefully that can continue. But I think you've got to go through. You've got to make mistakes to get where you are. Yeah.
Oh, that's true of life. You have to make mistakes,
and we did make a lot.
Well, when you're making mistakes, Mark, you have to learn from him. Clearly, you've learned from him. I want to touch on Sir Jim Ratcliffe. We're coming up to a year in December since he got his minority stake in United. What's your thoughts over the last 11 months on Sir Jim Ratcliffe, of what he's done? Is it for the better? Did you want him?
No, I didn't. I mean, it seems to me everyone did want him now, but I know they didn't at the time.
I didn't.
No, I didn't. I didn't really want Qatar, but I wanted the Glazers out, and I wanted a full sale, and I wanted the debt gone. And these were 3 non-negotiables. So the only one offering that was Qatar. I don't understand how we're not all, but, you know, a lot of people got really excited about Ineos, and I was like, it's 27%. The Glazers still here. The debt's still here.
Yes.
But that came out on Christmas Eve, didn't it?
Yeah, but no mention of the debt.
No.
In 11 months, there's been no mention of debt. And when I go back to you talking about the Glazer protest, this, that and the other, that was all about, we're in debt and all that. No one says it anymore.
There's a lot of trust out there for them, which is hopefully, I mean, look, I don't want to leave Old Trafford. I mean, for me, that is sacrilege to do that. So many people want to go, and I'm like, once you knock that down, you don't get it back. And to me, watching them videos of my granddad, Old Trafford still looks similar to me.
Yeah.
I remember my first time here, and luckily my lad had his first time a few weeks ago, and it took his breath away. I wouldn't let him go out until 2 minutes before so he could see it full. That place should be listed. We shouldn't be knocking it down. So that bothers me as well.
Yeah.
But look, to be fair, what they've done in the first few months, the structure, the players, the change in the manager, hopefully it's going to be better. I did say I said, I lost. I didn't get what I wanted. I'm not going to sit here going Ineos out.
Oh, no.
I'm going to give him a chance. There's a hell of a lot to do though, Tony. And I'm not like some people just going, hey, this is great. I'm like, let's take it a step at a time.
That's exactly what we're doing. We look at it. There's a lot more work to do. It'll take quite a number of years to do it. But in that time, there's been some good things. The Erik ten Hag saga. I mean, I always back the manager, back my players when they're out there. When a manager gets sacked, he gets sacked. I'd never call for a manager. Growing up, that's how it was. You all back the team, you all back the club, and if anyone's going to get sacked, then he'll get sacked when the powers that be make that decision. That's how I've always looked at it. But it was a terrible time for Erik ten Hag. He was getting slaughtered by the press. They were attacking him, but their own fans. And then when you go back to YouTubers, Mark, I mean, the abuse he was getting and that, it was absolutely terrible. I mean, there's some pictures out there about how bad it was. And Sir Jim Ratcliffe and all that, they never sort of like backed him publicly behind him, except that one statement before the Liverpool game. And then, you know, it just all goes hell loose.
Maybe it's just because he wasn't their guy. I mean, they can't let Amorim.
That's the mistake.
They can't leave Amorim to the fans and the Wolves again, because what is happening in the fan base with social media is that the negativity of not being happy is fine, but it's the levels people go to do it. Like, name calling or, you know, threats of violence or, you know, for content purposes.
Yeah.
It's that's not going to go. That they might be happy now, but that will come back.
Yeah.
That sells.
Yeah.
So that and it's the same with, you know, we spoke about talkSPORT or certain journalists. They'll be happy now, but in 3 months' time, their producers and editors will be going, could do with something about the dressing room leaks or something like that because that did well, and the cycle will continue.
Going forward, Ruben Amorim is in place. Your thoughts on it long term, Matt?
Really excited. I didn't think it was possible that we would go for him. I actually thought he would end up at Man City. It's going to be a new playing style, three centre backs, which we've not seen before. I don't have a massive amount of trust in some of those players. So if he can get rid of them or get a tune out of them, that's going to be a lot of work.
Got till the end of the season with a lot of these players because he has to get rid of some of these players and bring in his own to get his own style and everything else going forward, because there is players what need to be removed. Some players' contracts are up. So he's got a difficult period.
Well, it's funny actually because I saw something this morning actually from your mate Gary Neville, and he was saying that he thinks we'll get top 4 because the players look interesting. And I was like,
get rats. Did he say that?
Yeah, something along those lines. And I thought, to be fair, he's entitled to his opinion, but and of course we might do it. But is that not sort of the problem? I would rather we were going, if he gets 6th place and a good cup run, he's done a good job.
Of course he has.
Because we don't want to set the bar too high.
No.
We've been doing that for 10 years.
Yeah.
Look, I am excited. He's doing all the right things at the moment, but the big problem over the last 10 years hasn't necessarily been the manager. It's been the players.
I don't know how you look at it, but like there'll be ups and downs before the end of the season. And I think what it is, the priority, and this is what me and Kieron and Webby have said, the priority is the summer. He'll know exactly who to let go and who to bring in. And that's when you've got to see the kick on. But he's got to take it on, Matt. We've seen managers come into clubs. Look at Chelsea. The manager there is coming a few months later. They're playing good football.
Yeah.
But he's not the only one. So really, giving him till like the end of the season, change a few things. We should be kicking on from that moment onwards.
It's like a long pre-season, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
And I don't mind this season if we have a few bumps, like I say, because every other manager's come in, done really well the first year, and then it goes bad. I'd rather we have a bumpy first year and longer-term success. So hopefully that'll be the way it works.
Listen, I hope you've enjoyed the conversation between me and Mark. Been a while since we've sat down together. That's because he's busy, but hey, I don't hold that against him. Can you please smash the like button? Please subscribe. And hopefully me and Mark will be back together. A few months, maybe next year.
Definitely enjoyed it. Thanks for having me on.
Listen, thank you very much.